live from Tennessee, from the east to the west. We are talking Cowboys everything. And you just entered
the Cowboy Zone.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Cowboy Zone. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Glove City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. Tonight, I'm going to be rolling solo. Lambo has some personal items to take care of, but hey, the show must go on. So, everybody, let's get in. Let's make comments. We have a great show for you tonight. We got a lot of Cowboys news and notes to talk about. So I have a lot of topics, and because I'm riding solo, I want you guys to come and support me. So let's get in the comments. Let's give some feedback. And also let's do some calls. If somebody wants to call in and help me co-host a segment over the phone, let me know. We could do a call-in co-host. Right now, I got about 7 topics that I want to cover. A lot of stuff's been going on. A lot of stuff on social media. So that's going to be interesting. And we also finally get some interviews with players. So we're finally in that time of the year where football is about to begin. No more do we have to stalk our favorite players' pages to see who they're working out with or what they're doing. Now we get to hear what they're talking about straight from them and find out what's going on inside the locker room and in virtual meetings. All right, everybody, let's get in here. Let's share. Let's comment. Share it to your personal page. Share it to your favorite page. I'll put the phone lines up in a minute so we can talk about that and talk about some other things with you guys. So the first topic I want to cover tonight, training camp has started. And with that, today was the deadline for players to opt out of playing for the year. And I think that passed about 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. Luckily for us, we didn't have a lot of players that opted out. We could have been the Patriots or the Chiefs or a team like that had some major starters missing. But we got out of this thing pretty much unharmed. We lost 2 guys who probably weren't going to make the team. And then we lost a 3rd guy who I don't think anybody thought was going to make that big of an impact to begin with. Again, guys, let's get in. Let's make some comments. Let's share this thing. First topic, talking about players opting out. So the players that we had opt out were Jamiz Olawale, Stephen Guidry, and Maurice Kennedy. And to me, I'm happy we didn't lose anybody key because I know at one point D-Law was talking about opting out, and there was a lot of speculation about that. And then you hear about a lot of guys concerned about player safety and the safety of their families, and they opted out. But we got through this thing without any harm. Now, the only one for our team that was considered a big opt-out was Jamiz Olawale. And a few guys that don't know, that was our fullback. And to me, that opens up the Sawo train, our undrafted free agent, to come in and possibly get that spot. But we'll see what happens with that. I've actually been doing a little looking at that. And what's up, Mendoza? Appreciate you joining us tonight. Make sure you share this to your favorite page too, man, so we can get some more people in here commenting. And also make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I put the link in the comments so you guys can get in and follow me on YouTube as well. Now, I've been looking at the whole Jamiz Olawale, and for you guys that follow us, you know I've been talking about Sawo Olonilua since April, May. I was very big on him. I actually thought he would get the fullback spot because I just think he's a better overall player. But the more I think about it, the more I think we may not replace the Olawale spot with the offensive player. And get in the comments and tell me if you disagree with what I'm about to say. To me, when I look at the makeup of this team, and I hate to go back to last year because it's a new year and we got new coaches and a new scheme and all those things. But when I look at how this team operated last year, and I think about the fullback position, and I look at how many rushes did the fullback actually have? You guys don't have to go look that up. The fullback had 0 carries last year. How many catches did the fullback position have? You don't have to go look that up. Our fullback had 0 catches last year. And I don't want to get into the one where he completely missed the ball. He had 0 catches. And this team mainly runs 11 personnel, and I think that'll continue. So it won't be a lot of fullback opportunities in the backfield in terms of a lead blocker. So when I look at that position, we don't use a third running back. We didn't use our fullback as a rusher or receiver. And we need special teams help. To me, I think that spot may be better off used on a defensive player. Now, that doesn't mean Saywell won't make the team because we do need someone on practice squad. And J Tuck, man, what's up? Appreciate you joining us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe while you're there. Everybody else, make sure you subscribe as well. So, like I was saying, we won't necessarily lose him. For you guys who are unfamiliar with what's going on in terms of team makeup, the rules just changed when they upgraded the CBA. Now, instead of having 10 players on the practice squad, we now have 16 players. Now, to me, what that says is teams will not get to evaluate the guys at the bottom of the totem pole. So not only do teams not want to lose the guys who were on the practice squad last year, they don't want to lose all these undrafted guys who are practice squad eligible this year. So I think the reason they came up with this 16-player rule is essentially we're going to have a super practice squad where you're going to have pretty much all the guys who were there last year and then your favorite 8 guys from this year, and we're going to have a full squad that way. So there's room to get Saywell on the practice squad. So he won't be completely gone, guys. So don't think I'm trying to get him off the team. He'll be there. The practice squad is not a dirty word. The practice squad is a player on this team that we have rights and control over. Now, when I look at how terrible special teams are, well, I want any kind of special teams guys on this roster. And I'm going to say, well, probably is a special teams player. But if I can choose between an offensive and defensive guy, coverage, punt return, I think I'm going to have a better chance with a DB or a linebacker. So to me, when I look at that extra spot that opened up, I'm going to consider we pretty much know we're going to keep six corners, maybe 7. Maybe we want to think about keeping an 8th corner who can play special teams to help out with CJ Goodwin. We pretty much know we're going to keep 6 linebackers. Maybe we want to add a 7th linebacker with that position. Instead of saying Francis Bernard and Justin March Little are competing for that 6th spot, how about we open up a 7th spot so that now we have Francis Bernard and Justin March for special teams? We have a lot of questions marks at defensive end. There's a lot of guys that we like that we're going to have to put on the practice squad. And normally a team keeps about 8 defensive ends. How about we keep a 9th defensive end who can actually play special teams that can go out there and tackle? So we have options with that fullback spot that we don't necessarily have to fill it with a running back. Now, if we do fill it with Saywell, I have no problems with that because I think he's a great player. My only concern is I don't think the numbers would dictate him providing an offensive impact. We've all looked at the highlight clips and they look great. He's a height, weight, speed guy. But let's be realistic. Last year, Tony Pollard had 30 carries. I want that number to go up. As much as I like Saywell, I'd rather see Tony Pollard get an extra 20 carries than him getting 20 carries. We got a lot more mouths to feed offensively. CD Lamb, Blake Jarwin, Tony Pollard. So it's going to be very little opportunities for a fullback, especially when you consider last year, the fullback position gave us zeros all across the board. And before I move on from that, who was our third running back last year? We didn't have one. So that's another zero. So we're going to keep them, but let's think about using that spot to help our special teams get better. Now, we had a lot of good Instagram and Twitter news this week. I'll start off with the stuff from earlier this week. I'll save Randy Gregory for a little bit later so you guys can blast me on that. So this week they started doing player interviews, and Jane Slater came on and just dropped a bunch of knowledge about Amari Cooper and his interview. So I don't want to just read everything verbatim because some of you guys may not be Twitter guys, so you haven't seen this. So I pretty much pulled it up so we can kind of read through it a little bit, and you can see what Jane Slater said Amari Cooper talked about during his team interviews. So, first of all, Cooper talked about the offense hasn't changed a whole lot, but the verbiage has. And to me, that's a good thing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. The offense moved well last year. Let's keep it kind of the way it was. But at the same time, we are going to transition into a more traditional West Coast Mike McCarthy offense. So if we can keep our same concepts and get the guys familiar with that verbiage, that's a win-win for us. Second of all, talks about just his impressions of Mike McCarthy, and he talked about how Devontae Adams, the Pro Bowl receiver, talked highly of him in his offense. That's a good thing to talk about with our new coach. And here's another thing that they kind of talked about that a lot of people didn't know. He says that a number of offensive players have been working out consistently with Dak Prescott, and then he dropped another bombshell that Dak Prescott actually has a football field constructed at his home. Now, for all the people out there who want to talk about Dak Prescott and how he's not a leader, how many guys do you know that have a football field built at their home? And if you guys haven't seen this, this is kind of the picture that's floating around. If you look past his new girlfriend, that's another story in and of itself. And you look in the background, you'll see Dak at his new home with his $30+ million signing bonus he got, and you see he has a football field constructed back there. So that's interesting to me that Dak is that committed to the team and to the game of football that he constructed a football field behind his home. Now, I can remember early on in the offseason when Tom Brady was doing these private practices at parks and things like that, and the Twitterverse was just going insane. Like, wow, Tom Brady's committed to the game. He's about to have his best season ever. But Dak literally has built a football field in his backyard, and nobody outside of Cowboys fans and media are really talking about it. I have not seen this on a single sports TV show, on Fox Sports, ESPN, any of that stuff. And this guy has a football field built in the back of his home. So I commend Dak for his dedication to the game and also for getting the guys together to practice like that. The other thing that I take out of that is kudos to Dak and all those guys for not posting that on social media. I know us as fans, we always feel like if we don't see it, it didn't happen. So some random NFL player posts some 2-minute highlight clip and everybody's like, oh my God, this guy's working out hard. Or you see a guy doing a drill for 30 seconds. You say, he's really putting in work. and then you ask, well, what is Amari Cooper doing? He's not putting out any videos. Or CD Lamb. This lets us know that our guys are working on their craft behind the scenes. And I like that as a Cowboys fan, because too often in the past have our fan base and our players been too, hey, look at me, I want to get notoriety for what I'm doing. The fact that these guys are doing it together and they're doing it without giving themselves a lot of recognition is great to me. To me, that's the biggest thing I take from what's been going on. And that lets me know these guys are ready to win. All right, I see we got people going in and out. Make sure you guys get in the comments. I want to hear from you. I'm going to open the phone lines up pretty soon. So I want to see if anybody wants to call in and talk about a Cowboys topic. And also make sure you share this. Make sure you share it to your personal page. Also share it to your Facebook page. And if you came in late, at the top of the comments, you should see a YouTube channel. If you get a chance, make sure you go to that and subscribe as well. This show airs live on YouTube and on Facebook. So we want to make sure we build that YouTube following up just as much as our Facebook following. So make sure you guys come out there and support on YouTube as well. All right. Let's go to the second part of the Amari Cooper Twitter chats that was interesting to me. And James Slater went on to say, talking about CD Lamb was a great pickup and that he's a quick learner. And then he kind of talked about this, which is what has sparked a lot of conversation over this week. He's saying that there's an expectation that all three of them go for 1,000 yards. And I'm right along with them. I'm expecting all of them to get 1,000 yards this year. So for you guys in the comments right now, hit the comments. Let me know what you think. Eric Unrow, Trevor Green, appreciate you joining me, man. Thank you for coming in. Make sure you put some comments up. Make sure you share this. I just put the stat up about Amari Cooper saying he thinks all three of them will go for 1,000. Tuck, I saw you earlier on your podcast talk about it. So all you other guys, let me know what you think. Do you think all three guys will go for 1,000 yards? If you do, let me know yes or no, and I'll put it up and we can talk about it. For me, I think they can definitely go for 1,000 yards each. Excuse me, guys. And my reason for that is, for one, between Cobb and Witten, we have over 1,400 yards to make up. And I just think when you have a player of that caliber, he can easily get 1,000 of those 1,400. I mean, Randall Cobb had 869 last year. So to me, that's pretty much close to the floor of what I expect CD Lamb to do. So it's not impossible to see that he can get that. Tuck, I'll come back to your question in a minute. Mendoza just put a question up, and he wonders how they'll distribute the reps among the guys that are guaranteed and the fringe guys. How much do they get players warmed and caught up to the guys that could and need to be up to speed? That is a good question, because we haven't even gotten into on-field activities yet, but I'm sure that's one of the things that everybody has to kind of figure out right now, because there's no preseason games. And also, I'm sure there's going to be some limitations to on-field work and classroom work. So to me, Mendoza, great question. I honestly think for us and most of the teams around the league, it's going to be about getting your best 53 guys ready for week one. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of our favorite players who were drafted and undrafted. And again, going back to what I said earlier, that's the reason why the practice squad is going up to 16 players. In years past, you only could keep 8 or 10. So the other guys are pretty much gone. So now you get 16 guys in your practice squad. That gives you an opportunity to see them during the regular season. And that can sometimes be just as valuable as training camp because now they get to learn on a much slower level. If you think about training camp, especially this year, there's been no OTAs. Um, Guys haven't even put on pads yet, literally at all. When you think about guys who were drafted and undrafted, some of these guys haven't worn pads since Thanksgiving if they didn't have a bowl game. The offseason they spent training for combine, and then COVID hit, and now they've been sitting at home and trying to stay in shape. So some of these guys haven't even put on pads since 2019. So you can't really expect for the team to try to come in and not only bring these guys back up to par, but also teach them and get them ready to play. Now, some guys like a Trayvon Diggs or CD Lamb or Neville Gallimore, the top guys who were drafted, you expect them to be at a talent level to where they can at least come in and compete as backups. So I can see those guys getting work, but they're going to get backup work. All the other guys past the third, maybe fourth round, I don't think they're going to get as much work as you would think they would get. Outside of like a Tyler Biotish, because he's pretty much penciled in as a pure number 2, maybe number 1 at his position. But guys like Bradley and I love him as a player. I just don't know how many snaps he's gonna get. Carter, the big undrafted guy we got, I don't know how much work he's gonna get. Francis Bernard, love him as a player. We got 6 other linebackers in front of him. They got to learn the scheme. Some of them are changing positions, and we'll get to that in a minute. Make sure you guys share when we talk about that. But we got to catch a lot of guys up to speed. So because of that, I don't think some of these younger guys are going to get the reps that we would expect for them to get. Mendoza put a question up about Sawo, going back to what I just talked about. Again, like you said, the special teams value, I agree. But to me, he's going to have to compete with who may be our 6th safety, Luther Kirk. If Luther Kirk is amazing, at special teams and Sawo is pretty good at special teams, let's be honest, neither one of them are going to probably get a chance to show anything offensively or defensively. So it's all going to purely come down to special teams. So the more special teams you can play and the better you play on special teams, the more of a chance you have to make this team. All right. Let me go back since I've been talking about linebackers a little bit. And my guy Jay Tuck, again, appreciate you joining us. One of the few people that joins us on YouTube, so I definitely appreciate that. You ask, am I okay with the depth at linebacker? I'm one of the few people that's okay with linebacker depth at this point. And here's my reason why. I know I'm in the minority on this, but regardless of Sean Lee's injury history, I still believe that Sean Lee, when healthy, can start on 50% of the teams in the league. That's just my opinion. A lot of people don't agree with that, but hey, you have your right to believe what you believe. Another thing, Joe Thomas. I'm higher on Joe Thomas than most people. While I don't think he could come in and give you amazing stats, I think he's versatile, that he can play all 3 positions, which is something you definitely need. And I also think Joe Thomas as a middle Sam linebacker could probably start on 5 or 6 teams. All right, Jay Tuck. So you don't think Sean Lee could start for half the teams in the league? All right. Agree to disagree. I think Sean Lee, when healthy, is still good enough to play in this league on half the team. I'm not saying for a full season. I'm saying if you line up all the linebacker cores in the league and they all had to play a game tomorrow, half of them couldn't put out 3 linebackers who were better than Sean Lee. That's just my opinion. But hey, I appreciate the counterpoint though. I don't like it when people agree with me all the time. I like it when people push back on what I say. Now, going back to what I was just talking about, Joe Thomas is decent enough to fill in spots. Sean Lee is good enough where the fall off won't be a lot if we need it. Luke Gifford, we don't know what he is, but in limited time, he's shown me something. The only concerns I have about this linebacker core are with injuries. Now, nothing's guaranteed. So we don't know if we can all make it through a full 16 games and have our starting linebackers make it. If they do, I'm good. If not, if we don't have one of our starters miss more than 3 games, I'm good with our linebacking core. If we have another situation where LVE misses 8 games plus, then I'm concerned about linebacker depth, because then you have a domino effect of the next guy who has to come in and play that spot, he has injury concerns. So if you need him to play 8 games and Sean Lee's only going to give you 3 or 4, now we got to put in our 4th linebacker to start 4 games. That concerns me. But injuries are unavoidable, so I don't want to harp on that, even though history has shown our guys are injury prone. So I'm going to come in and say, if nobody in our starting lineup in linebackers misses more than 4 games, I'm good with the linebacker position. To add on to that, linebackers are a dime a dozen. I mean, look at last year. Malcolm Smith came in at the end of the year and gave us some quality snaps. So if something happened and we need to go to free agency, I would be confident we could find a guy who was good enough to come in and give us some decent reps. So I'm not as concerned about it as most people are. So now since Tuck took us there, I'll talk about the linebacker position. And today, LVE did his rounds at media day. And he talked a little bit about the scheme and things like that. And he dropped 2 bombshells on us today as well. And I don't know if you guys follow this or not, but make sure you build up on your Twitter game, because Twitter is strong with Cowboys information. Make sure you go out and follow guys who are the national guys like myself. I mean, not like myself. I'm sorry. Speaking into existence, my bad. People like James Slater, Brian Broaddus, David Hellman, Kyle Yeomans, Patrick Walker. I don't want to leave anybody out, but those are some of the people I like to follow. And then make sure you go out and follow the guys who are doing this grassroots, who are building up, like myself, J Tuck, Sid, Star Gang, West Coast, who's borderline nationwide already. All the guys with late night hype. I know I'm probably somebody out, Sid. Guys like us who follow the game, we put out just as much content as the national people. So make sure you go out there and follow us so you can keep up with what's going on with your favorite players. Now, LVE, one thing he talked about that kind of made me sit up in my chair a little bit was, well, let me go back to the first thing. He said his shoulders and his neck are fine. He's going to wear some extra padding and everything will be okay. To me, I see it. I believe it when I see it. You can't say a neck is fine until you get in those pads and run into somebody. So I'm hoping the best for him, and I hope he can stay healthy. But until he gets involved in an actual game hit, I can't say he's 100%. Now, on the field, One thing he talked about was he said that Coach Nolan is already going to mix in some blitzing and he's going to mix in some multiple defenses. Now, we've all kind of speculated on this already, but this is the first time we've actually heard it from a player who's sitting in the meetings and has the game plan and the playbook and is looking at what's going on. So now speculation is over. This is a new era in Cowboys football, especially on defense. No more of that vanilla crap where a guy can't fake to show he's blitzing or he's in a cover three when he's really in a cover two. No more of that middle linebacker drop eight steps and stand and read. None of that. No more no blitzing. We're gonna bring the house. We're gonna mix it up. We're gonna keep offenses guessing, and I think we're gonna have a great season defensively. The second thing he brought up, the thing that made me kind of sit up for a minute, like, oh, I didn't expect this one to happen. He mentioned that he's gonna move to middle linebacker more, and that Jalen is gonna play more wheel linebacker. Now, for you guys that don't understand how the linebacker position works, that's huge. And to me, I've always been an LVE fan, but his strong point has never been playing north and south. To me, he's an east-west player. He's a smart player. He's a coverage player. So I think this is going to make him play even better and show more of his strengths. So now, instead of him being a weak side linebacker and have to run a play back from behind or being responsible for a gap, he gets to sit in the middle where he's, for the most part, covered up by those big D tackles inside. He gets to read the quarterback, read the running back, cover the running back out of the backfield, cover anybody coming across the middle. He gets to be more of the field general that I think he is. And he gets to use his length and athleticism. Now, what really makes me happy about this is Jalen moving outside. Now, we've all kind of talked about Jalen blitzing more, but nobody ever really confirmed it. This pretty much confirms we're going to see Jalen inside the box and in the backfield a whole lot more than we have in years past. Because when you're a weak side linebacker, your main responsibility is kind of like a trash man or a cleanup guy. You're pretty much going to be uncovered. You're going to cover gaps. You get to have a lot more freedom in how you play. So I think Jalen is going to be great in that role. Also, I don't have to see him covering as much as I used to, which I'm so glad for. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they work together with a switched role. All right, guys, the comments are a little bit dry. Let's get the comments back up, and make sure you share this. Share it to your personal page. Share it to your favorite page. Todd, thank you for joining us. Like you said, Cobb was close as the third receiver last year. I think he had 869 yards. He was probably three penalties or three drop passes away from 1,000. So it's not impossible to think that a guy who's a better catcher and more of a yak guy can't get 1,000 yards. Now, Mendoza, you make a great point. You talk about Luther has to go against Thompson. And what I was saying was he doesn't have to go against Thompson. He has to go against Saywell. They're competing for they're competing for a special team spot. I'm already assuming if we keep a sixth safety, he's not playing defense. He's purely special teams. If we keep a seventh corner or a seventh linebacker, they're not touching the field defensively. They're purely special teams. So now, do we want Saywell or a safety as our special teams guy? Saywell or a corner as our special teams guy? So I'm looking forward to that. And then you talk about everybody's fan favorite Jalen Jelks. To be honest, I didn't think there was a spot for him, But with this opening up, he could be the guy to get that spot that's open. And I would love that because we don't have a lot of pass rushers on this team. And I think we're going to need somebody to help fill in on that right side spot. Derek, I see you came in as well. Appreciate you joining us. You're saying you're not comfortable with our linebackers. Clay Matthews is available. Actually, if you caught last week's episode, I talked about the exact same thing. When I said Stephen Jones a couple weeks ago made the statement that the team plans on making one or two moves going into training camp. And we were trying to guess what two moves or players there would be. For me, I said the very first one I would make was Clay Matthews. Clay Matthews can give you linebacker help because he's played as an inside linebacker in Green Bay, and he can also be your special pass rusher and come in and probably get you 6 or 7 sacks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. All right, Mendoza coming in talking about the linebacker spots in the 3-4. Definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing some 3-4 concepts, especially with the level of linebackers we have. Guys, let's get some more comments in here. Let's talk about some more stuff. And while you guys put in comments, make sure you share. And while you share, I'm about to post this quick video. It came out earlier last week. Basically, it was the first day of the veterans meeting, and Mike McCarthy just kind of meeting with the guys and talking to the guys. So take a look at this, and we'll come back and talk about it in a minute.
It's great to finally be able to stand in front of you and get started on this unique, very unique opportunity. Obviously, anytime you got a chance to be part of an NFL opportunity, it's special. But I think stating the obvious, the uniqueness of this battle with COVID that we got in front of us, not only just here professionally, but personally. For the 13th, we'll have our traditional, big team meeting. It'll be more like the traditional training camp I'm sure you guys are accustomed to. Everything we do will be about winning, okay? Personally, even more so, the investment from the organization, staying in tune with the education, the resources that are, this has been a moving target. If you guys were in here a week ago, this particular part of the facility didn't look this way. So we're still working to keep upgrading and making everything as safe as possible. All right, man. Have a great day. Thank you.
So that was a clip from Mike McCarthy talking to the guys the first day back with the veterans. The one thing I got out of that, and I know everybody got that out, we're going to be about winning. Now, people might think that's a small thing, but think back to years past. What did Jason Garrett talk about? Jason Garrett always talked about competing. To me, there's a big difference between competing and winning. When you're competing, that just means you're trying to be comparable to the guy that you're going against. You want to try to stay at the same level. When you talk about winning, you want to be the best. And I think that's going to be the difference between what we've seen in years past and what we see now. Mike McCarthy is all about winning. I think they've shown already just from talking, they're going to put the best players on the team. They're going to put the guys in the best positions. They're going to scheme things out to help the guys and not do like we did in years past where the scheme dictates the player and what they do and where they play and how they perform. I think we're going to see a lot more of guys actually going out there and winning. I'm looking forward to seeing training camp to see what type of wrinkles they bring in terms of battling and winning and seeing who's the best. So I'm excited about that. Guys, let's get some more comments in there. You guys got anything you want to talk about? All right, at this point, I am going to open up the phone lines. So right now, you see in the bottom corner, Jerry's making the call. I want to see you guys make the call as well. So phone lines are open. Let me know what you guys want to talk about. We could talk about something I just talked about already, or we can talk about a new topic because I got a couple more topics left that I want to cover, but I want to see what you guys got to say. All right, that was quick. We got a phone call coming in. All right, who am I on the air with?
It's Jeff, man.
Hey, what's up, Jeff?
What's up, AJ?
Appreciate you calling in, man.
Oh, yeah, no problem, no problem. I see one topic that you skipped over that we addressing or that we need to address.
Don't do
we
it.
Talked about the Gregory reinstatement.
I knew you were gonna do it.
Yeah, I saw that he's filing he's come out to talk about the differences that I guess that he feels like the NFL is treating him as far as his reinstatement. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit.
All right. I was gonna save it for the end because I don't think people are gonna like my opinion on this one.
Okay.
Before we go into that, let me put up. Hey, can you see the screen, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm watching you on TV.
Okay. All right. So before we move into that, let me put up this so you guys can see what Gregory said on Twitter earlier this week. So basically said, I miss playing football and being a player in the NFL. I'm doing everything that is asked of me, and he's been ready to play, and he's gotten little to no help to resolve reinstatement. And basically he's asking more questions that he's getting answered, and that the people are using the pandemic as a way to prevent him from joining the team. And they're telling him to sit and wait in limbo over things he can't control while doing everything off the field. And he thinks that's unfair. So before I say anything, let me get your opinion on this.
Well, I mean, if you look at a player like, Lambo kind of alluded to this a couple of weeks ago. If you look at a player like Josh Gordon that has been suspended several times, I mean, countless times and been reinstated, and it's never been this long or this rigorous of a process and never been this long drawn out, then you got to say it's unfair. We Cowboy fans, you like to think it's us against the world, but this kind of lets you know that it's something more to it than what they're letting on. And I mean, I don't think Greg has really played for like 2 years. From what I've read, he's not failed drug tests. He's crossed all his T's and dotted all his I's. So what is the problem?
You good? Jeff, you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. All right. Before I say this, let me say this first. Gregory has gotten a bad rap with the fans and the media for years. Randy Gregory, he's failed drug tests and he's been suspended. But how many actual drug charges has he gotten off the field?
He's not gotten any drug charges to my knowledge.
Okay. How many times has he gotten in trouble off the field?
None to my knowledge.
None to your knowledge. Now,
right.
Give me a second. He hasn't done anything off the field to be wrong. And I get tired of hearing people say that he's a druggie and he should go back to smoking weed and he doesn't deserve a chance. He deserves a chance.
I agree.
Now, here's my problem. Let me be back before I say this. Patrick Walker, who's a NFL insider, Cowboy specifically, he came out on social media and said that he's actually spoke with Randy Gregory and that Randy Gregory didn't file for reinstatement either late 2019 or early 2020. So he didn't file the paperwork until, let's say, mid 2020, which would put him around April, May, which is what has kind of been reported by everybody. This country has suffered the biggest pandemic in almost 100 years. Slow your roll, young fella. I know you want to play on the field, and I know you want to get rewarded because you're doing the right things. But come on. Don't be a baby about this. You made the mistakes. Like, you were the one that kept getting suspended. And now all of a sudden you're doing right. You want the league to just drop everything and make you get what you want? No, sir. I mean, think about this pandemic. 3 weeks ago, we didn't know if there was even going to be an NFL season. Like,
I still think that's up in the air.
I mean,
I hope it's going to be an NFL season, but I think it's kind of pending. I hope though.
Okay. It's players. It's 2,400 players in NFL right now. These dudes worried about, am I going to get a paycheck tomorrow? They worrying about, am I going to get sick and die? Or am I going to make somebody in my family sick and die because I'm on the field?
Right.
And the league had to handle this and figure out how to make this game as safe as possible to even have things open up. And this dude is crying because they put his stuff on the back burner. I mean,
well, of course,
the nerve of him.
Of course, the COVID stuff is going to come first, but they're trying to ensure that they have a season. Because if, hypothetically speaking, we don't have a season this year, that's going to impact a lot of stuff, mainly the salary cap next year, mainly.
Yeah.
So, of course, the COVID stuff is going to take. Now, personally, I think he should have been filed for reinstatement even before all the COVID stuff hit. And then his paperwork maybe went through by now or what, because obviously I don't know who's advising him, but whoever advises Josh Gordon obviously advising him better than whoever's advising Gregory, obviously.
Yeah. Now, like I said before, you can file for reinstatement 1 year after you were suspended. It's my understanding that was probably sometime around last October, November, or whatever. If you really wanted to play and get back on the field, why didn't you file for reinstatement as soon as you could do it? You the one that waited several months to do this. So because you waited several months, it was unfortunate that your reinstatement lined up with one of the biggest pandemics the country has ever seen. But don't act like somebody owes you a favor and I'm doing the right things and I deserve to get a chance. None of this is under his control. Take that back. The only thing under his control was he could have filed earlier. So,
and to not smoke weed and when he get drug tested pass.
I won't even.
Those things are on his control.
Those things are on his control. I won't even hold him accountable for that because he served his time for those things, and the rules have changed, and now he has an opportunity. But understand where you are right now, young fella. Guys, it's 60 plus guys who have opted out of millions of dollars because they're afraid of the well-being of themselves and their families. Like, there's some real shit going on right now. The league and the Players Association has much bigger fish to fry than reinstating some dude who's been kicked out of the league 4 times, and now he finally did the right thing and he wants them to speed the process up. I just have a problem with that. And to add on to that, I didn't pull this one up, but then he called out the attorney for the NFL Players Association.
That was not a smart move.
Exactly. Now, for the people who are listening, I know a lot of you guys saw that, and you saw NFL, and you just assumed this was him tweeting some random person that works for the front office like Goodell's assistant. No, it was NFL PA, NFL Players Association. This is the organization that represents him and the 2,400 other players in the league. And he called this man out and said, you ain't returning my phone calls and you slow footing the process of getting me back. What's up? So now you done alienated the people who make the decision to let you in the league. And then you alienated the only guy who has influence to make them expedite the process. So just thinking of being a person yourself. If some dude done called you out on social media and talk about it, be your own people, and you can't return an email and you ain't sent me no email, are you gonna rush this? Are you gonna rush to respond to this guy going forward?
No, naturally I'm gonna drag my feet.
Exactly. So now he he just burned another bridge.
So what you saying that you feel like the chances of Gregory playing this year are slim to none? That's what it sounds like you're saying without even saying. I mean, that's one of the elephants in the room as far as the Cowboys organization right now is Randy Gregory going to get reinstated?
I won't say he won't play. Here's my problem. Now, maybe he lit a fire under somebody, and maybe somebody makes a move to reinstate him. I doubt it, but you never know. Let's say they slow-footed, and instead of a week from now, he doesn't get reinstated until right before season starts. Is there going to be a spot for him? Do they really have a spot to save for Randy Gregory?
Well, that was my next question. So let's play Cowboys fan for a second.
Okay.
Let's say he get reinstated. Let's say his paperwork go through, and he's ready.
Okay.
What does that do to what did that do to the defense? Who's the odd man out then? And is he coming in as a starter or as purely a situational pass rush? Which one is that?
To me, I don't see how he can legitimately compete for a starting or a backup spot coming straight from reinstatement. I can't believe he's in enough shape to play football, having not played in 2 years. That's just my opinion. On top of that, you got a completely new scheme to learn. And if, using my assumption, he doesn't come back until right before season starts, he had zero opportunities to look at the playbook. So you can't give a guy who hasn't played a game in 2 years, hasn't trained with the team, and has no clue what's going on with the new playbook. I don't see how you can give him a spot. Now, for me, let's say we playing Cowboy fan. Let's say Bradley or Jalen Jelks comes in and they showed us something. Like they showed us some real pass rush moves. Do you relegate those guys back down to say, hey, I want to get a look at Randy Gregory and see what he has? A 28-year-old guy who hasn't played football in 2 years? That's my opinion. Now, I don't think he will not play football. What I think will most likely happen is Randy Gregory will be reinstated, and he will probably go to the practice squad. Now, whether or not he clears waivers or not, that's to be seen. I think he probably will clear waivers unless Oakland pulls a move. I think other than somebody that knows him well, I think he'll clear waivers, and I think he'll go to the practice squad.
He definitely could clear waivers, definitely.
So if he clears waivers, he can go to the practice squad. And while I'm there, because I'm a nerd and I like to read crap about random stuff, there's a rule in the CBA that nobody really talks about. The rule says that if you put a guy on the practice squad, they have a special designation that you can make for 4 guys that nobody can take them off your practice squad. Like, no matter how much money you offer them, you cannot take them off your practice squad.
Mm.
So that's going to be huge because now if you can get a guy like Gregory on a practice squad, you can just designate him as one of your 4 guys that's untouchable. And I'm calling them the untouchables.
Right.
So you can basically, if you can get him on a practice squad, you can keep him on the team all year until you think he's ready to be a 53-man guy.
Right.
On top of that, there's another rule that says you can bring up 2 guys to the active roster and drop it back down without having to cut them. So I think those rules are going to be real favorable to him this year. I just can't see him getting a spot to me because we just got so many guys. And spots are just so few and far between.
Right.
All right, let me hit the comments real quick because I know a lot of people have been hitting them. Artrice, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it. We're just talking about Cowboys players and training camp moves and things like that. So I know Mendoza just put this up here about what I talked about competing versus winning. Funny thing is that we competed, we just didn't win. Like I said, it's a difference between competing and winning. When you're winning, you're the best. That means you're trying to win a Super Bowl. When you're competing, you're just trying to make the playoffs.
Or you just trying to not lose.
Exactly. I'm trying to see us win.
Exactly.
And I see Nelson. Appreciate you joining. He put a couple of guys that are undrafted. They thinks are gonna make the roster. One of them is Rondell Carter, defensive end. So like I was saying, if Randy Gregory comes back and it's the end of training camp and you're trying to give out 53-man roster spots, are you guys gonna give it to now? Take fanhood out of this one because we've seen Randy Gregory his entire career. Imagine you're Mike Nolan and Jim Tomsula. You spent your whole offseason putting together a draft board of guys you like. Then you go into undrafted free agency. You had a guy circled on your board that you loved, that you couldn't get drafted. But lo and behold, he's right there as an undrafted guy. You convince the owner of the team to offer him more money than any other undrafted free agent. You get to see him perform in virtual meetings, on the field, in pads for a month. And we get down to final cuts. And you tell me, if you're Mike Nolan or Jim Tomsula, are you going to cut Rondell Carter for Randy Gregory?
No, you won't. That's going to be highly impossible.
I mean, that's all I'm saying. Same thing with Bradley and I. Nobody thought he would be there for us in the late rounds. Coaches probably had him circled on their board as a 4th-round pick. He drops to the 6th. He has pass rush moves galore. He has the mentality you like. He's 23 years old. You see him in practice. He may not show you a lot, but he shows you promise that I don't want to risk losing this guy. You chose a nah, and Randy Gregory shows up and hadn't practiced. Which one are you going to keep? And that's not me saying I don't like Randy Gregory. I love Randy Gregory. But I'm being realistic here. You can't keep everybody. And you can't – and if you are a coach, you can't use 2018 to determine – 2018 in a different scheme to determine 2020 status. All right. I see Mendoza made another comment. He said they're playing him. Alden Smith got reinstated on the last day possible, and he did so after having violation after violation, and it's not just dirty tests like Randy. I mean, like I said, if this was a normal offseason, I would say, okay, you know what? They screwing around with Randy. Like, come on. Let's stop beating on Jerry and the team. But we are dealing with a situation that has never happened before in the NFL. Like, I don't know how many times in the past the league has been in the situation where they might not have a season, but I doubt it's happened often. And not only that, the situation is created by one of the largest health pandemics ever seen in this country, at least in the past 100 years. So I don't normally give the owners a pass or the NFL a pass, but I got to kind of give them a pass right now. It's a lot going on. And they have to determine how to figure out how to keep 2,400 guys employed and safe. A guy that's not even in the league is going to be the last of my concerns at that point. Mendoza followed up with that about this being understandable. He put himself there and he has to get himself back. And he kind of compared him to Alden Smith again. I see what you're saying. To me, I can't really compare Alden Smith to Randy, only because Alden Smith hasn't had multiple being kicked out of the league. His road to recovery was a little bit easier, in my opinion, because he only had to prove one time that he's done enough to get back in the league. I'm sure the paperwork is a lot more for Randy than it was for Alden. And Mendoza, you agree. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I understand you think COVID is a cop-out. But in my opinion, you can't say COVID is a cop-out because it's affecting the league. Like, if this, you still there, Jeff? I'm sorry, I ain't trying to keep you on hold too long. If you want to say something. Jeff, you still there? But my whole thing about COVID is, whether we believe it's a hoax or not, it's bad enough to where the league might lose. Okay. Whether we believe COVID is a hoax or a cop-out or not, it's big enough to where the league could lose $1 billion. And prior to 3 weeks ago, there was no plans of having a season. And we don't even know if there's going to be a season. So I understand you saying it's a cop-out, but COVID, if it's a cop-out, COVID is a real good reason because it's been confirmed to have a major impact.
Well, it's definitely not a cop-out. It's definitely not that.
It might be a cop-out in terms of whether or not you believe the whole situation is real or not, but in terms of the impact on the Players Association and the NFL front office, you can't say it's not rattling some cages.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jeff, you got anything else you want to talk about?
Nah, I'm just gonna hang up and I'm gonna continue to listen. I had you on mute a couple times because the kids running around and got me doing everything, and I didn't want that to come out online and all. But really enjoying the show.
I appreciate it.
I'm really anxious to see what's gonna be the end result of the Gregory thing. Just even if it's us washing our hands with the situation, that way that won't be a topic in the future. Now, from a Cowboy perspective, from what he showed us, if he could come in and be anything, a glimpse of what he showed us, I believe it could be a plus. But, if not, let's just go ahead and get rid of this so we don't have to keep talking about this elephant in the room, especially if we got better talent that's behind him, that's not going to be suspended and it's going to contribute to the team. Let's go ahead and put an end to it.
I agree. Now, before you go, Jeff, here's one more thing I'll say.
Okay.
In my opinion, if he would have kept his mouth shut, I wouldn't be shocked to see him reinstated within the next 2 weeks.
True.
But now he's ruffled some feathers on both sides.
I just said that's like, going and putting on social media about the boss and all this stuff, and then go in and the next day and the boss is seen and ask the boss for a favor. That's kind of what it's like.
Exactly. Yeah. So real training camp stuff doesn't start until August 13th. To me, if he wanted to say something, he should have waited till after the 13th to say something, because that's the point where he's actually missing stuff.
I agree.
What has he missed so far? I mean, I understand.
Nothing really.
I understand he wants to say I'm an NFL player again. NFL players don't get paid in the offseason. They don't get paid if the training camp starts unless you have a signing bonus, or a workout bonus in your contract. They don't get salaries right now, so he's not missing out on money. If this was a regular season and they had voluntary OTAs and mini camp and he missed time on the field, okay, I can see why you're upset. But we haven't had that.
Yeah, he's really not missed anything, and I don't know what the rules are, but I mean technically he could still be learning a little something from people, even if he ain't on the team. I know he's probably not supposed to have contact with or be in the facilities and stuff like that, but I mean, hey, it don't stop you from working out and working on your craft. And pass rushing is pass rushing. Yep. It's not too much gonna change on that. You have your moves down packed. You're a pass rusher. That's what you are.
Right. I mean, if he really wanted to see what's going on, call up D-Law and say, "Hey, man, can I look at your iPad and see what they done talked about in training in virtual meetings?"
Right.
Or let me sneak and watch a virtual meeting with somebody else and not know I'm present here. I mean, he ain't missed out on a lot.
He hadn't, not at all.
But now he's just alienated the two people that can actually get him in the league before we start real training camp.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. I hope they don't hold it against him. But after this, I don't expect to see him get reinstated within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
All right, Jeff, I appreciate the phone call, man, and appreciate the support.
All right, no problem. I'm continuing to watch you on TV. I'm about to turn you back up. I got you on mute right now.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, man.
All right. Well, I just beat the Randy Gregory thing to death. So if anybody else has any other topics, the phone lines are still open. I see I got a couple guys still in the comments pretty regular. So if you guys got anything you want to call in and say, let me know. Anybody else that's watching, make sure you get in the comments. Let's talk about a couple other things before we head out of here. I got 1 or 2 topics to cover on my end. But if you guys want to get into something, let me know. Put it in the comments or call in. And before you guys leave, make sure you go to my YouTube and subscribe. So if you didn't see, you can go to the top and just click on that link and it'll take you to my YouTube page and you guys can subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all the support you guys give me. I appreciate the viewers. I appreciate the comments, and I appreciate you guys who follow my page. If you don't, make sure you follow my page. But I'm trying to build my my YouTube following up as well, so make sure you guys go on there. Mendoza, good point. You could designate Rundell as one of those 4 to keep on the practice squad. My whole point was, from a coaching perspective, do you want to risk a guy that you spent your whole offseason doing homework on, and you probably had him on your board to draft? He didn't get drafted, and not only did you go after him as an undrafted free agent, but you convinced the team to use more resources financially for him than any other player. That lets me know that either the team likes him a lot or the DC and the defensive line coach liked him so much that they were the loudest people in the room to make sure this guy got on the team. So to me, if I'm looking at it from the coaching perspective, if I have a guy who hadn't played in 2 years, or I have a guy who is younger, cheaper, and I have firsthand research on him that I've done myself, I think I would probably lean towards keeping him on the team and just not taking a chance. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Everybody has an opinion. That's just mine. Again, I appreciate you pushing back on me, because I don't like it when people agree with everything I say. I like having real dialogue about football topics, especially with the Cowboys. And I appreciate you being a knowledgeable fan and can actually push back and hit me with some stuff that makes sense, because I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. All right, guys, phone lines are still open if anybody wants to call in. I got one more topic I kind of wanted to go over, and this one wasn't really just something talked about in Cowboy Land. This was me just following the other podcast and listening to them talk about what they talk about and chiming in. And I noticed this was kind of a topic that everybody kind of hit. And we've kind of talked about it in here as well. And that topic is who makes the team. Now I see my guy Nelson hit on this earlier. He talked about a couple undrafted guys he thought would make the team, specifically Rondale Carter, Rico Dowdle, Kendrick Rogers, Francis Bernard making the team. I know Mendoza hit a couple guys up, specifically guys like Jalen Jelks. Talked about Devin Smith as well with Nelson. Let me give you my thoughts on who makes the team in terms of undrafted guys specifically. Like I said earlier in the podcast, the league has changed the rules as of 2 weeks ago. So now teams on their practice squad just went from 10 to 16. What that tells me is the coaches on each team have said, I just don't have enough time to see if the guys on my practice squad last year are ready to compete and take a spot on my 53. It also tells me I don't have enough time to evaluate the undrafted guys and the late round guys I drafted this year to see if they're able to compete with not only my practice squad guys from last year, but 53-man roster guys. So to me, the fact that they went up to 16 practice squad players, that tells me that a lot of the guys who were on the practice squad last year have very little chance to make the 53-man roster this year. That also tells me a lot of guys who were undrafted free agents this year have very little chance to make the 53-man roster this year. Now, I know that crushes a lot of people who have pet cats and they have these guys that they've researched and names that we all know, but we got to look at the reality of the thing. There's 16 practice squad spots. They almost doubled the practice squad spots from last year. Who do we expect to fill those spots? Like, honestly, do we expect a guy from the 53-man roster last year to fill a practice squad spot? More than likely, no, to me. More likely than not, somebody was on the 53-man roster last year. If they're not good enough, they're probably gonna stay on the team or they're gonna get cut altogether. I don't remember the exact number. I think we had like 14 undrafted guys this year. That number's been cut down because we had to cut the roster from 90 to 80. So there's probably actually about 7 or 8 undrafted free agents left from this year. And then last year practice squad was 8 to 10 guys. So that's 10 guys from last year. So to me, I don't think a lot of undrafted guys and practice squad guys will have a chance to make this team. And just like Mendoza asked the question a whole lot earlier tonight, this question about distributing reps. I just think it's going to be hard enough for teams to get their guys who they depend on as starters and backups to be ready. So there's going to be very limited reps to see if your 40th player on your roster can get beat out by an undrafted free agent. I think more likely than not, teams will just run it back and say, you know what, unless there's a guy we just really, really like, we're going to keep our top 40 to 45 guys the way they are. And then we'll figure out the practice squad guys during the season. And I don't say that to say they have no chance. There are actually a couple of practice squad guys from last year and undrafted free agent guys this year I think have a really good chance to make the 53-man roster. And if anybody wants to call in and tell me who they think undrafted guy that they can make the roster, call in and let me know. If you want to talk about another topic, call in for that as well. Now, the first guy I think an undrafted guy from this year who makes the roster, Ben DiNucci. I just think we haven't drafted a quarterback in a while. We got a new coach who's a quarterback guy. He chose to draft a quarterback, and I don't think he's going to risk letting the quarterback go if he likes him. Again, because of COVID, I think it's slim that teams would poach practice squad guys. But when you have a quarterback and you're a quarterback guy, I don't think you're going to risk it. Another guy who's an undrafted guy, I just talked about him, Rondell Carter. I don't want to go through the whole thing again, but somebody between our defensive coordinator and our defensive line coach liked this guy enough, or the team in general liked him enough that they were willing to spend more money on him than any other undrafted free agent to make sure that they got him here. If you spend more money to get somebody here, I don't think you're going to risk letting them go, because that tells me that he was a hot commodity and that a lot of people wanted him. Because if he wasn't, you could have offered him the same thing everybody else got, and he would have probably come here. The fact that they offered him that kind of money tells me that they're not going to risk letting him go. I know I talked bad about Saywell, or not bad about him. I know I talked about replacing him earlier in the comments. Mendoza, I agree. But I think it still comes down to special teams. And if he's good enough at special teams, I think they'll just want to have that spot in McCarthy's system. So I think he has a good chance of making it. So that's 3 undrafted guys. Let me give you a fourth one. Nobody's talking about him. So for you guys, and make sure you remember this. Make sure you share this so people can know. So if this happens, you'll know you heard it here first. A couple of weeks ago, we had a 53-man roster breakdown show. Over the past 6 weeks, we broken down every position. We compiled a list, and we had Dallas Cowboys staff writer David Hellman on the show to discuss it with us. And when we talked about Ben DiNucci and the undrafted guys, he dropped a little nugget in there that we had never heard. And that's the beauty of having guys who work for this team come on your show and talk about it, because it's not something that will be known as common knowledge. He said that a guy the team really liked and that they were strongly considering drafting with that 7th round pick was tight end Sean McKeon out of Michigan. So for all you people that are still left, make sure you Google Sean McKeon, SeanMckeon. He was a tight end from Michigan. He didn't make a lot of catches, but he has the skill set. And I thought about that, and again, that was one of those situations like I had to take a step back. Like, Sean McKeon, out of all the guys, Luther Kirk, who was a Senior Bowl defensive MVP, Terrence Steele, the offensive lineman, we need tackle help. Francis Bernard, a guy we all love. Jed Anderson, a guy that I'm high on as well. Of all these guys, he made a point to mention that he heard talks that the coaches really like Sean McKeon and that they were considering drafting him with our 7th round pick. Now, that's crazy to think about when you consider that Thaddeus Moss was also available in the 7th round because he was an undrafted free agent. So they had a chance to get a guy like Thaddeus Moss, and he made the point to bring up that the team really liked Sean McKeon. So that perked my interest, and I looked him up. And he has the attributes you want for a tight end. Let's see what happens with that. And also, when I started looking into him more, we did an episode about 4 weeks ago where we had Boss Cowboy on. Shout out to Boss Cowboy, one of the few people I respect outside of the major Cowboys. Well, take that back. Out of anybody who watches and studies Cowboys players, he's one of the top 5 people I trust when it comes to player evaluation. We did an episode talking about the 53-man roster and the offense, in particular running back and offensive line. And he made a point to bring up tight ends in that conversation. Not only that, he made another point to bring up the name Sean McKeon as a guy that he really liked. He told us to make sure that we look at that third tight end spot. Don't be surprised to see Sean McKeon get that spot. So now there's 2 people I really respect that have brought his name up on this show. So I think he has a really good shot just because of what I hear from these people. So that's a name that you guys should remember. I see Mendoza kind of put his thoughts up here in terms of the offensive makeup. Mendoza, you want me to do some quick math? Is that 53? 5, 6, 12, 15, 23, 32, 39, 50, 53. Okay. All right. So you got 53 guys up here. Let me just do a quick scan of what you got. All right. So you got 11 DBs. Mendoza, do you want to call in and talk about this? Or do you want to comment in the comments about it? Because I'm interested in your DB breakdown. Do you have 7 corners and 4 safeties? Or do you have 6 corners and 5 safeties? So you could put that in the comments, or if you want to, you can still call in. I'm going to stay on for another 5 to 10 minutes. Go through this some more. 8 offensive linemen. Okay, I see Hicotini. I actually, when I did my breakdown, I had Hicotini as my third tight end, and that's when David Hellman brought up the name Sean McKeon. So we're both right there with David Hellman agrees with as well. So I'm interested in your DB spot. Is that 7 corners and 4 safeties? And if that's the case, would you rather have a fifth safety like a Luther Kirk over a Saywell for special teams purposes? Also, you got 8 offensive linemen. I'm just about to do a quick write down. See if I get 8. Irvin, Martin, Tyron, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Knight, Biotis. Okay. All right. I understand you can't call right now, but you got 7 corners and 4 safeties. And you got now this one is interesting to me. You have 9 defensive linemen. So when I see 9 defensive linemen, you almost kill your arguments about Alden Smith and Jalen Jelks and Bradley and I. Because I'm assuming you're keeping 4 D tackles and you're only keeping 5 defensive ends. So let's assume you got Alden, you got D-Law, you got Crawford. Those three are secure. I'm interested who your other 2 defensive ends are in that situation. And anybody else wants to get in the comments, let me know. I like stuff like this. I like breaking down people's thoughts and thought processes on what they think about the team. Let me put the number up there real quick. Again. So if anybody wants to call in, you're welcome to call in. I'm gonna stay on for 5 more minutes. Once I go through this with Mendoza, if nobody else calls in, I'll probably go off the air. But again, I appreciate you guys supporting. Make sure if you don't follow me already that you follow me. Make sure you share this, even though you've watched it pretty much to the end, because somebody else may not have been able to watch it. So make sure you share it to your personal page or to your favorite group, because we hit a lot of points tonight that a lot of people don't talk about. And also make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay. So Mendoza, you gave me all that talking. You don't have Gregory in your defensive end group. But hey, I understand. Wow. I'm looking at your list right now. You don't have Jelks, Jackson, Carter, or Gregory. That's interesting. I mean, I can't say I disagree, but that's interesting that you cut a lot of the guys that you really like. And I appreciate you actually taking the time and doing this, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, let's just keep 12 defensive linemen." And they don't realize it's levels to this. You can't just keep 12 linemen and not assume you can keep 7 DBs or 6 linebackers. So I appreciate you doing this. And actually, I'm pretty much on board with everything you say. I'm looking at this. I think they will find a way to keep Rondale Carter, but that's only because I think they're keeping 5 wide receivers. That's just my opinion. And I haven't really talked about this, but I did a little homework on the wide receiver position before I go. So I looked at last year, and I know different year, different scheme, but this is a trend that I've noticed a little bit around the league, because I did 2 other teams to kind of see if I'm on the same track. If you look at teams outside of their top 3 wide receivers, their starting tight end, and their running back, most teams on average only have 40 to 55 targets left. So between your backup running back, your fullback, your backup tight end, your 4th receiver, and your 5th receiver, there are only 40 to 50 targets total for the whole year for those guys. Now, if you assume a 50% catch rate, let's say 60%, and you assume it's 55, that means there's only 30 catches available for your 4th wide receiver, your 5th wide receiver, your backup tight end, your backup running back, and your fullback. So between those 5 guys, they have to basically allocate 30 catches for a year. That's less than 2 catches a game. So when I'm looking at a 4th or 5th receiver, are they really going to provide us anything offensively? That's why I'm not high on 6 receivers. If I could, let's say the 5th receiver gets 10 catches, which is highly unlikely for most teams, and it's a guy for us like a Devin Smith who provides you nothing on special teams. Would you rather have a guy who makes 10 catches, and as a matter of fact, Devin Smith only had 5 catches last year. So even doing this, I'm doubling the catches he had last year for the year. So let's assume he has 10. Let's give him 15. Let's triple his catches from last year. 1 catch a game for your 5th wide receiver. Let's assume Devin Smith gives you 15 catches a game as your 5th wide receiver, and he gives you nothing on special teams. Now, let's also assume you can either keep Devin Smith or you can keep Luther Kirk or Francis Bernard, because I like going offense to defense. Let's assume those guys do nothing on defense, but they can give you 15 special teams tackles. Which one of those two are more important to a team winning or losing? I know people don't think special teams is sexy, but 15 special teams tackles is a Pro Bowler, a borderline Pro Bowler. 20 special teams tackles is almost certainly a Pro Bowler. So would you rather have a borderline Pro Bowler or a guy giving you one catch a game? To me, it's a no-brainer. If I can choose between a sixth receiver who's going to give me one catch a game and a special teams guy who could possibly make a Pro Bowl, and he plays on punt return, kick return, field goal. He's giving me quality snaps on 5 phases of my special teams out of 6. I'm going to take the safety and the linebacker 10 times out of 10. And that's why I just can't get on board with the sixth receiver. There's nothing a sixth receiver can provide me than my best receiver on the practice squad can provide me. Basically, my practice squad receiver is providing me with 1 catch less per game than my sixth receiver. But special teams is a different animal. Everybody can't play special teams. And we saw that last year. You need guys who can hunt and run and hit and cover all at the same time. You don't need a guy that can do one thing. You need a guy who can do everything. And I'd rather have one guy who can give me special teams to do everything than a wide receiver who's going to give me 1 catch a game and then sit on the sideline and drink Gatorade the rest of the night. All right, well, that's pretty much all I have for you guys tonight. If anybody else wants to chime in, I'll give it another minute or so. So this was this week's training camp talk. If you guys, like I said at the beginning, make sure you go follow guys like myself and Star Gang and the Late Night Hype guys and West Coast Boss Cowboy, See It, J Tuck. Go follow guys like that because we're going to give you daily input on what's going on with the Cowboys. And make sure you follow the national people as well. There's going to be a lot of news that's coming out over the next week. Players are going to be more available. So there's going to be a lot more nuggets about how the scheme is going to be or what positions players are going to play or just how the coaches are in general because we have no clue how they're going to be. On top of that, August 13th will kind of be the start of real training camp where guys are actually getting on the field, and that's next Thursday. So hopefully next thank you for correcting me, Mendoza. It's the 17th. 17 camp starts. In the Mike McCarthy clip, he said August 13th is kind of where we get back to what you guys know as traditional training camp. So August 13th, 17th is when camp starts. 13th is kind of where we get back to more of normalcy. But on that day, hopefully we have some more information. Stuff has come out every day about players. Hopefully I can come back and Randy Gregory will be reinstated and I can come back and I can say how I feel about him now that he's actually reinstated. It's just so many layers to the Cowboys team right now that we can talk about. And next week, we're going to come back and talk about more of this stuff. We got some special collaboration episodes coming up. We're going to be connecting next week with the UK Cowboys. In a couple of weeks, we're going to hit up Sid and J Tuck. Hopefully, we can set that up. We're going to be reaching out to some of our favorite local bloggers and some of you guys' favorite bloggers to see if we can do some collaboration episodes. And we're going to have some more Cowboys football news and notes. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Make sure you follow me on all my social media. Everything is Bluff City Cowboys. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so, make sure that you go to my my Facebook page as well and follow me there. So, again, before I go, this is Marcus, Love City Cowboy. Thank you guys for joining me for this week's episode of the Cowboy Zone. Hopefully we can get Lambo back next week so that he can join in on some of these news and topics. But until then, appreciate you guys joining. I'm signing out.